Good morning. It's Market Day Report. We're so glad you're with us to start a new trading week and a new trading month. That's right. Let's jump into the markets and see how we moved overnight. And, well, the movement was into the red for December corn. Again, lightly trading here at 433, 2.5 lower. Let's look at the March. A little more action here at 445.5. It's off 2.25 cents. Soybean trade in the overnight session, front month down 4.25, 1133.5. And how about the wheat market? We'll start with Chicago. And how about we look at the new crop contracts here, because this is what's in the ground and kind of focused on at this point. 550.5, that's the July, 4.5 lower. And then we go to Kansas City, or hard red, July. 547.25. It's down 3.75. Spring wheat in the overnight session was higher across the board. And then over to the cotton market, March contract 64.39, down 32. He's the president of Midwest Market Solutions, Brian Hoops. All right, Brian, welcome back to another trading week, new trading month. What are you watching?
Hey, good morning, Tony. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving and a little bit of a break there, and I hope everyone else did have a great weekend as well on Thanksgiving. We had export sales coming out this morning. This is for the week ending October the 23rd. So USDA still is way behind, where they should be as far as releasing this information, but they are trying to make it up as they release every couple days some more exports. But for that time frame, corn sales were 71 million bushels, soybeans 53.3, and wheat was 18.4. Those are some very good numbers for that time of year, especially for the corn market. And as we said before, corn was the one that we thought that probably got hurt the worst being shut down because it had such a great streak of not only private export sales but weekly export sales reports that were giving us some real strong support. Now, we did not have any private sales this morning to report, so we're not concerned about that this morning, or not being supported by that. Over the weekend, it rained in northern Brazil, and they had some very good rain showers, 2.5 type inches. It's a little bit drier in southern Brazil, but it is their start of their monsoon, their rainy season, as we start to get into that for this time of year. Argentina is a little bit dry as well, so they're going to need some rain, but they're still trying to get a lot of their crop in the ground versus Brazil, over 85%, almost 88% planted of their soybean crop, 93 of their first corn crop. So they're well on their way to getting their crops in the ground. So, you're looking at South American weather for one thing. Also, Chinese demand is being closely watched by the trade. Is China going to meet their requirements of what they have indicated they would purchase? Well, they're off to a start, not a great start, but at least they've started to make some purchases of U.S. soybeans. But it remains to be seen, and it's probably going to be a stretch for them to buy 12 million metric tons of U.S. soybeans in total by the end of this calendar year.
Yeah, good points there. Hey, Brian, let's take a quick break. We'll come back in a moment. We'll talk about a market that's been a bull market. Does it remain bullish? We'll find out in a moment. It's Market Day Report. I just got to looking. We always have these good creative ideas. 72% of us have great creative ideas, but where do we get them? Where do those creative ideas come from? Or where are we when they come to us? Think about that. We'll have the answer in a little bit. Right now, how about creatively, we look at the live cattle market. December contract at 215.30. It's 427 higher. That's the settlement from the trade on Friday. Now, we had an abbreviated session. February settled at 217.82. It was up $4.90 and $5 gains for the other contracts. Feeders, front month January 323.05, up 792. And look at the gains, March, April, May, August, gains of all 790 to 902. And as we look at how those settled, they all settled higher, but off of the day's high. And we come into a Friday after Thanksgiving always knowing that we can see some pretty wide swings in these markets December hogs a little higher. February, though, at 80, 92, down 45. Let's go back to Springfield, Missouri. Midwest Market Solutions, Brian Hoops. All right, Brian, what did you really pull from last week?
Well, certainly an interesting trade last week in the cattle market, sharply lower to begin the week, and then rallied the last two trading days of the week, sharply higher on Friday, touching limit up at one point in January feeders. Now, it's a low volume session, of course, but what you can take away from this is some positives. We saw cash trade early in the week and late in the week on Friday, and that Friday trade was significantly better than what we saw earlier in the week. In fact, we saw 220 on Friday in some cleanup trade in Kansas and Texas, but it was 210 to 215 early in the week. So significant improvement there, and has calls suggesting higher cash trade for this week. Feels like maybe we've kind of turned the corner in this cattle market, kind of an exhaustion type week, especially when you consider we had higher weekly closes in live, in feeder cattle, and in lean hogs. So this is the first higher weekly close since October the 6th for live cattle, and for hogs, you go all the way back to September 22nd since we've had a higher weekly close. So it's been a long time. There was some thoughts that maybe we had trying to put in a bottom in this cash market at the end of November, and as we got into December, we'd see higher cash trade. Over the weekend, Spain reported case of African swine fever. That was their first case in over 3 decades, I believe, on Friday, and they announced several more cases over the weekend. So that has caught some trade attention. That that disease prevalent in Spain. Maybe they won't be exporting as much product because of that, and that would open the door for better U.S. U.S. exports of pork products. So hopefully we get a boost in the hogs off of this news and can strengthen in the cattle markets as well.
Okay. Hey, Brian, before we go, a market that I know you and I don't talk about much. It just grabbed my attention. Bitcoin. Look at what happened to Bitcoin again in that overnight session. A major pullback. Wow. Talk about a market that was on a bull run and then had the rug pulled out from under it. That's Bitcoin, as it falls to 86,495. That's 86,495 per coin. Brian Hoops is president of Midwest Market Solutions. We'll see you back here on Wednesday.